Good morning. This is Mercy Burton Russell with the Remarkable Relationships Show. My goal is to bring a fresh perspective to you on all things related to how humans develop their individual brilliance while navigating the excitement, stickiness, and resistance in their relationships. In my 40 years of working as a psychotherapist and consultant, I have been continually amazed at the ways in which people overcome challenges. I hope to share my experience and insights so you can find the magic in your relationships. So today, this is my last show that I'll be doing for the time being. And to celebrate, I have today my guest, Chase O'Donnell, who is returning from a show that we did in October. We are again going to be talking about our experiences dating. And I'm going to also be talking about birth order and how birth order affects our relationship with potential partners, spouses, and we'll get a little bit into children and parents because that's part of the formula. So let me talk about Chase. Chase is in her 30s. And I am 70. Chase and I met on a spiritual retreat this summer. When I found out that she earns her living as a stand-up comedian, I asked her to join me on the show. And of course, we had so much fun, I'd asked her to come back. And she eagerly agreed both times. So we have been talking about being single and dating, comparing our desires, our different challenges, and our experiences. This is really fascinating, but the fact is that there are so many more similarities between a woman who is what I call pre-reproductive. She hasn't had a family yet, and someone like myself who has a granddaughter, right? So we're very different stages in life, but we're wired, as humans to mate, and that doesn't go away when the reproducing is over. So at any rate, we're going to be talking today, and Chase, hello.
Oh, hello. I'm honored to be the one to celebrate this last show for the time being with you. Thank you for having me again. And what an intro. Thank you.
Thanks. And we do have Benny here as our producer, and I have invited him and hope that he will join us in our conversation.
Oh, I can't wait. Just bring those questions right to me, right? And I'm kind of I'm in between, so I have kids. So
we're all in the different phases.
Yeah, the different levels.
Right. And he's got a partner and he's got kids, and he could even still have more kids. How about that?
Yeah, you're just showing off, Benny.
And that's the thing with guys. They are never post-reproductive, right? They can have kids right up until the week they die. So
I don't know
the day they die.
Yeah,
well, that's another story, but that's the way it works, right?
They can.
So at any rate, we go down that rabbit hole. I also want to, we're going to do this more at the end of the show, because I think that maybe people will catch the end of the show a little, also, but I want to also have a chance, Chase, to talk with you about your career, where you are, some new things you've been doing, where people can find you. So
I just had my first comedy special released this past month, and it was written up in the New York Times, and it was very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, I was written up in the February 9th issue of the New York Times, to be specific.
Yeah, it was. I think it was actually in the paper February 10th.
Okay,
right around there. Who's counting? But it's called People Pleaser, and it's on YouTube. So that was a really big milestone in my career, having that come out. And now I'm just working on new material, because it's kind of a thing once you put out your jokes into the world. It's not like music where people get excited to hear old songs, people do not get excited to hear old jokes. So you have to constantly have new material. So that's now what I'm working on. But all my material, it's still coming from dates. I get a lot of material from the bad dates I go on. And it seems to be a lot of bad dates.
Now, just in the event that potential dates are listening to this show, I want to say that when Chase told me that, that how she was using dates and sometimes the reaction that she got from somebody who might have been on that date with her.
If a guy, dates have heard me talk about the bad date and they don't like it, and their fragile egos get upset with me.
Right.
I feel really bad.
I've told her that I think this is a great selector. In other words, she needs to be with a guy who loves her sense of humor and is confident enough that he doesn't mind being in her jokes or her stories.
They're confident enough that if I say, man, he was a dud, he goes, ha, 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 ha. I am a dud.
Okay, so then, so maybe you don't talk about him because he's not a bad date, but down the road, right? When he's like your live-in boyfriend or your husband, the father,
he's gonna have to be okay with me making fun of him.
He's going to be material, right?
Absolutely.
And he's got to be cool with that, right? So
I don't know where else I would get material if not my life.
Exactly. Right. So anyway, for the guys out there listening and watching,
buckle up.
If you meet those criteria, step up. So
it's a tough criteria.
It is. That's a tough one. And anyway, I won't go down that road. So I'm a family therapist and I do talk about my own family, but I have to be very careful about that because
I'm sure.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did want to talk about today came from a workshop that I was just participating in for single women who are, looking to date, and there were actually some couple married women there who, just wanted to improve their relationships. And I had an opportunity to talk to them about birth order and how that affects marriages, partnerships, and dating.
I'm very intrigued because the name birth order gives nothing away. Like it doesn't tell me. I'm very confused about what it is, and I'm so excited to find out.
Oh, interesting. Now, I think most people have heard about, the difference between the oldest child, the middle child, and the youngest child.
Oh, it's like that?
That's kind of the popular, what I call the McDonald's version of this.
Oh, I thought it was like the birth of where you were in the stars and the charts, and I didn't know it was like literally the order of when you were born.
Yeah, no, that would be astrology.
Could be topic for another show someday, though.
It's I've got the perfect guest for that. So, but at any rate, so this is about birth order, but I like the term birth order for different reasons, but we can get into that. So what most people are familiar with is the caricature of of the oldest child as being, and their personality traits, right? That the oldest child tends
That's why you asked me if I had a sister. Well, I didn't even, did I give it away?
I already knew you had a sister.
Oh, okay.
Because when I talk to anybody, I always draw a little diagram. And when I talked to you 6 months ago, I just started drawing a diagram of your family. Now, you may not have known it.
No, tell me more.
Yeah, because it's how I think.
Whoa.
So this is, I think I can explain, okay, there's the common idea of the oldest child who's responsible, a rule follower, hard worker, bossy, over serious sometimes. And then there's the youngest child who we know is more risk-taking, more fun-loving, more charming, free-spirited, maybe a little spoiled because they're the baby, right? Okay.
The best.
Yeah. We'll talk about your position in a minute.
Okay.
And then there's the middle child. Oh, I'm the middle child, right? Yeah. So the middle child is adaptable, has to, gets born first is the baby, but then all of a sudden there's another baby. They have to be adaptable. They can be very social, butterfly, a dreamer, creative. They can be competitive because they got to work both ends of it. Great negotiators. So I'm the oldest of 6. Number 3 in my family, I think, fits this beautifully. And she's a politician. So she's the perfect politician. And she still wants to work both sides of the aisle, right? She's a, Democrat, but she wants to work with Republicans. That's a middle child.
Wow.
Okay.
But what about, you have 6? What about 5, 4, and 3 and 2?
Yeah, good, excellent question. So I just gave you the version that most people have, I call it the, what you've read about in Cosmopolitan magazine or any popular magazine will give you those ideas. But the way I think about birth order isn't just that one position, but where you are relative to the other siblings in terms of your gender and what we call rank. So you have an older sister, right? Mm-hmm. And so you are the younger sister of a sister.
Yes.
Which is different than the younger sister of a brother.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
Let's just start with that. So okay. You would have those youngest characteristics. And yes. That would be my prediction. Now I'm going to give you these templates, and then the good conversation is always the exceptions.
Okay.
And that's where the rest of my family knowledge comes in.
Okay.
But in general, if you have an oldest who's sort of functioning as an oldest, then the second younger sister of a sister would have those lighter characteristics. Be more cheerful, more fun-loving, would be the comedian in the family.
Yeah, I definitely, when you were talking about the younger sibling, I was like, wow, what a gig, because it seems so lovely to be the younger sibling. I feel like I relate to everything you said. I also think I was babied way more. I was like coddled and just taken care of more than my older sister has always been we call her the president of the family. She's just 18. She's moved out. She's never lived at home since. She has always supported herself since she graduated. Even before that, she owned a business in high school. She's always been this go-getter and in charge of her life. Whereas I've lived at home several times in my 20s. I've been taken care of and given help more. They've taken care of me more. My sister has never even wanted that. She doesn't want to be taken care of.
So you have just given a beautiful description of the difference between an older sister of a sister and the younger sister of a sister.
Thank you. I also, can I mention that my sister growing up, I didn't know how exceptional she was. She was the Grand National Dance Champion when she was 12. She started this business at 15, but because I was younger, I was always oh, well, I'm going to be doing that in 2 years also. I never got the oh, I'm living in the shadows. She was so incredible and got this full ride scholarship to college and has been pretty well known in the street art world and was on The Amazing Race and was in Forbes under 30. But my whole life I was me too in 2 years. I never got there, but I was always she's older. So that also, thank goodness, I think that was my
experience.
My experience, because people have, I don't think they mean it to be rude, but I have been asked, what's it like living in the shadows? Because that's how some people interpret my situation with her.
Right. And you're like, what shadows?
I never thought of it until I got asked that enough. I was like, oh, should I be concerned about where I'm at? But yeah, no, my whole life I never was concerned about how incredible she was. It was just like, yeah, I'm going to do that too.
Okay. So what I'm talking about in terms of birth order, I just want to cite, comes from the work of a Swiss psychoanalyst named Walter Thoman. And he did a big research study on looking at family variables that had a role in the rate of divorce. And he studied families in the United States and in 7 different countries in Europe, from, rural to urban families. I mean, obviously they were all kind of, probably mostly white. So this was back in the 40s and 50s. So it was, that we have that sort of bias in there. But what he found is that, there are certain birth order positions that have a much lower rate of divorce than others. All to say, even those that aren't the best combination still can be very successful. And there are factors that go into that.
Wow.
Right.
I've never even thought of this.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more.
Okay.
I'm right there with you.
Alrighty, that's what I'm here to do.
Tell me more. I'm intrigued.
We'll start with Chase. So Chase, so what? Let's compare. If Chase were the younger sister of a brother. So first of all, you'd still be in a youngest position, right? And you'd still be, to some degree, special because of being the youngest, which means you're always the baby in the family, so to speak. But also you would have grown up with a boy in the house, with a male. And you imagine what that would be like if you had a brother who was 2 years older than you. You would know what they smell like. You would know how they move. You would know.
So you're saying I would have better luck in the dating?
Well,
community?
The statistics show that that's the best position for a woman to be in if she marries a man who has a younger sister.
Oh.
Because both, if you have a sibling of the opposite sex in a traditional structure, so we're also talking about our patriarchal society where, the male has a certain role and the female. So but statistically this showed out. He wasn't putting that into the study. He found it so that you're used to the male as a leader. But you're just, the way I think about it is you're just used to boys, and what they do and how they move. So when you go out into the world, you are really comfortable with boys. And often a younger sister or brother could be a tomboy, hang out with the boys, hang out with her brother and their friends.
And I think guys like it when girls are like, sports. They're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Which I'm not that way.
Right.
And sometimes I have my dad like write me a monologue about a certain game that's on so that I can spew it out and seem like I know. I'm very quick at memorizing a monologue.
But that's good for reference for you too, if you're going to dip back to family on the male side, because I'm a product of, so to speak, of an older sister and a younger sister.
Now, Benny, we were going to get to you.
I know, I'm just dead. So I'm here.
Alrighty.
I'm here for you.
Okay. So what Benny has is the advantage of, not only is he probably pretty comfortable with girls because he grew up around them. He knows what they smell like. He knows, he knows what they do in the bathroom, whatever. And he's figured. I
had my own bathroom. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you were lucky.
Just kidding.
In my family, it was 6 kids in one bathroom.
Yeah. We had to share too. Yeah. I know what it's all about. Yeah.
So at any rate, he knows all of that. and how they talk. And this
Yep.
is like not even, I think this is like this unconscious familiarity. And he's got the advantage of the rank thing, you know. So as a younger sister of a sister, comparing you and your older sister of a sister, and I'm the older sister of 3 sisters in a row before the first boy came. So I'm more in the position of your older sister. You have the position as a younger sister of being comfortable with somebody who's older and, you know, has that rank. So for example, Benny can go either way, right? He can swing both ways. He can.
You can swing both ways.
What can I say? It's a gift.
And in fact, for me, so then the best match for, you know, sisters of sisters, whatever your rank, is to find a male who has sisters. And preferably, for me, somebody who's got an older sister, so he can.
Wow. I've never dated a guy who's had a sister.
Interesting.
I've dated, my first boyfriend was the oldest, but he had a younger brother. Second boyfriend, only child, which I'd love to hear about. And then third, younger to a brother. So maybe I need to find someone that has a sister. I need to find an older brother to a sister.
That's the ideal. Because then because it's a male who's familiar with females, even though you aren't that familiar with males. I mean, just in that fundamental level. Yeah, me neither.
And I grew up dancing and act like musical theater. Not very many males I haven't grown up with.
But you also, but then it's that rank issue that also matters. So even though you don't have an older brother, you're a youngest. And it's good to be around somebody a male, even if he isn't, say he's got only brothers, at least he's an older brother of a brother.
So being with someone that's an older sibling will react better to my younger sibling lifestyle.
Exactly. It's a compliment.
Ooh, and then so my sister, she would need to find a man that had an older sister and he's the younger,
or an older brother,
because she's
an older
engaged to an older brother that has a younger sister. So they're both the older, but he does have a sister.
Okay. So
what do you think about
that?
She's taking notes.
According to Dr. Tobin, the odds are a little lower for that.
Okay.
But then you have to look at the other variables around the nature of that relationship. And then the other piece we look at is your parents. Okay. So for you and your sister, and for me, as the older sister of sisters, my primary experience with males was with my father. Mm-hmm. So you may not have brothers, you know, rolling around in the backyard with you, but you did have a father.
Yeah. Which I know I'm lucky for. Yes.
And what's his birth order?
He's the oldest brother to 2 younger sisters.
Okay. So
we like that?
We like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So the male you're familiar with is comfortable with younger sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have that experience of being with a man who's comfortable with younger sisters. And technically, if I were sitting on an airplane and I was going to read your birth fortune, which I've done, I would say, you know, tell me about your mother's birth order first.
She's the middle child.
Older.
2 sisters, one older, one younger, and she's the middle. So both my parents have 2 sisters.
Yeah. Interesting. But your mother did well in marrying your father.
But
really, in terms of birth order.
Her older sister is like not even a year older than her. They're like so close in age. And then her younger sister is like 6 years younger. Okay. So she always felt like her younger sister, she was more of like a parent to her. Like she always like She was her little sister.
Mhm.
I don't know if the age gap makes a difference.
Yeah, a 4 to 5 year age gap kind of interrupts this. So technically, that younger sister would be really more like an only, and your mother's primary experience would be as the younger sister to an older sister,
Okay.
because that was the little pod that was
Yeah.
that doesn't mean she didn't then have the experience of taking care of someone younger, but it would be more, like you say, like the babysitter. And
Yeah, she was more the babysitter to her little sister. Yeah.
So your position, first of all, your mom, you're probably comfortable with both of your parents.
Yeah.
Because your mom's comfortable with both her daughters.
Oh yeah.
Because she's got an older sister and a
My
younger
mom
sister.
wants to be one of the sisters.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And she's comfortable with both the characteristics you two have of sisters, because she's sisters of sisters.
Yes.
And then there's your dad, who is the older brother of all these sisters.
Yeah.
And he's probably cool with that.
Yeah, my dad always says he loves like that. It's literally all girls, and he's so happy with it. But now my mom didn't get along growing up with her sister, and my dad also didn't with his.
The one that's older?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas me and my sister have always gotten along. We're like best friends.
We're going to come back to that. We have to take a break, but I want to come back to that because this has been part of my experience in applying this formula that, you got to look a little further than just, these two variables. And and so Benny, we're going to take a break now. This is Mercy Russell with a Remarkable Relationship Show. I'm here today again with my friend Chase O'Donnell, and we're talking about birth order and dating. We're going to get into some dating quick because I want to hear some stories. We'll be back after the break.
Cool. All clear.
Have something important to say? Want to help improve our world? Need to promote your business uniquely and effectively? KKNW is the answer. Our staff helps broadcasters and podcasters create professional sounding audio. Bring your talent and let our experts help you craft a radio show or podcast that best delivers your message. Learn more at 1150kknw.com. That's 1150kknw.com. KKNW, talk variety that's live and local.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay!
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Make it a great day. Keep your dial on Alternative Talk 1150.
We're coming back now, though, so very shortly.
Hello, this is Mercy Russell with a Remarkable Relationship Show. This is my last show, and I'm here to celebrate today with Chase O'Donnell.
Woohoo!
Returned, yay! We're talking about dating and birth order. We're going to talk about birth order a little bit more, and then we're going to talk a little more anecdotally about dating.
Okay.
So, Chase, for those who've just coming in, Chase is a comedian, a professional comedian, and we're going to also talk about a little bit more at the end. Make sure you know how to find her, and and then just how we're going to maybe get a little taste of how she talks about dating in her personal life.
We'll see.
So we've been talking about birth order, and we've been talking about Are you a younger sister of a brother or older brother of brothers? And how that kind of thing, and how that affects your dating lives, your marriage, partnerships, and it affects everything, friendships, work relationships, but we're really focusing on dating today. Chase is a younger sister of a sister. Benny has an older sister and a younger sister. So he's golden when it comes to, pairing up with girls.
Does it make a difference if I throw in I'm adopted?
What age were you adopted?
I actually was adopted when my little sister was a month, being created. My mom didn't know. So then I was adopted, and then she was pregnant with my little sister.
Yeah.
So
you were adopted at
we're 8
birth?
months apart. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's the family you grew up in.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah.
that can affect other things, but in terms of this level of what we're talking about, it doesn't really matter. I mean, especially if your whole life experience was in this family.
Got it.
Can I ask, does being a middle child and you're the only boy though, does that make it so you're less of a middle child stereotypical character traits because you're like the only guy, so you don't feel like you feel like you have your own identity, or is it no matter what where you are?
I think that definitely can play a role, right? I had the first boy in my family was like, woohoo, and he was the fourth. So typically in the youngest position, he is the one who's funniest and thinks he's the funniest. But he has a sense of entitlement that doesn't usually come with the youngest. But I think that you are exactly to your point. He knew he was the first male, and there were, after all these girls.
Yeah. It's like you're not competing you're not competing at all. You're a different gender.
Yeah, you don't have to compete though.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in his head, probably.
Right. So a brother of brothers is, especially younger brother of brothers, is going to be more competitive naturally. Other things all being equal than a brother of sisters who doesn't have to because he's the guy.
Right.
And what about this only child I dated?
Well, only children have particular characteristics. I always think of them as being a lot like oldest. But they do have they because they're alone and they're living in an adult world basically.
Yeah.
So they often appear more mature, more independent. They're natural leaders. They can be sensitive. They're kind of used to being catered to, really, by the adults, by people around them. If they aren't in a situation where they get lost. When you throw in divorce and death of parents, it influences all of these things. And for Benny, he's, when you're adopted, you're really wanted, right? But then he comes in, he's really wanted, and then, his mom gets pregnant, right? When he's on his way. And so then, that could also color things, either, make him more special or, make the younger sister more special. So, it can flavor things, but that's the story you get to tell about that, right? But when it comes to mating or marrying, Benny's going to be a pretty good choice. I married a man who had an older, younger sister, and I thought this is good because I'm a older sister of sisters, and I, at any rate, and actually it worked out really quite well. And we had a really good marriage until, we found out there was that we weren't compatible in a very important way, but we're still very good friends. But the thing that was different is his oldest sister her father is an oldest, her grandmother's an oldest, she's a heavy duty oldest.
Wow.
Both my parents are youngest.
Okay.
So there was nobody driving the bus, right? And I'm the oldest going, okay, who's driving the bus? All I wanted in my life was an older brother. And my father was the younger brother of sisters, and he never took charge until the day he died.
Because he was the younger.
He was younger.
And I don't take charge. I'm actually in my last relationship, we were both youngers.
Yeah.
Is that what you call us?
Youngers.
We're both youngers. And neither of us would ever start a difficult conversation. So it finally took me doing it, but it was so out of my comfort zone to do that. And he wouldn't do it. So I probably need to be with an older to a younger sister.
Right. That's the ideal. Now, what happened, because the other thing with my husband is that his older sister, when they were kids, she bullied him. And I was not a bullying oldest. She teased him, and in that way, she'd, kind of, they'd be on the edge of the Grand Canyon and she'd say, "Don't fall over." It'd freak him out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they laugh about it now, ha ha. But then if I ever had a little tone in my voice, he'd get really reactive to it. And I'd go, "Wait, that's Lynn. That's not me. I'm not a bossy one." So you have to watch out, because they could have their experience can color. They could see you through that, through the lens of that sibling. And that's just kind of natural.
Crazy
right?
how complicated our brains are.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. Right. And but you are really set up nicely in that you have such easy relationships with your parents, and that your father was so comfortable with girls. So you kind of think about that. Somebody like your father who's really comfortable with girls.
Because on your dating app, it's like, Chase, you're like seeking male who has sister. I mean,
seeking male,
younger sister.
Younger sister, right? Which would lead to so many ways.
And is just like my dad.
Yes. Exactly. I'm gonna get so many guys.
Oh my God.
That'd be great.
And you were saying that, like, how your parents their relationships with their siblings, is that kind of what you were saying? You have to be careful if they were like bullied or mean, then they're going to project that onto your.
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, if you're with a partner, but also with parents, they're going to get along. So an older sister of sisters who has two daughters. Now, your mother has both, so that's why she's comfortable with both of you. But an older sister of sisters might get along a little better with the younger of her daughters.
Oh, interesting.
Because the two oldest are kind of going to be a little competitive. That older child is going to probably say, "Okay, well, now I'm the boss." Or, and I have a friend who's got two daughters, and the older is really bossy. And even when she was little, I'd look at her and go, "Are you kidding? Like, you're gonna, like this little girl would be bossing everybody around," right? And my friend, who's an oldest sister, it didn't really bother her, right? I never heard about tension between the two of them. I actually deferred to that older. But I'm like, "Are you what?"
Wow.
And I can't. But you can see how that plays out too, right?
Yeah.
So, and my father, so that there are all kinds of variations that we can get into. But anyway, that's just a taste of birth order.
That
and what
is
we look
so
at, the things we
cool.
look at.
Fascinating,
So
right?
let's say I meet a guy and I'm
Okay.
dating him, and he is a younger, and he has an older brother. Do I say sayonara, even though we're getting along great and I really like you and there's a lot of chemistry, we shouldn't do this?
No, I would never do that.
Oh.
I would say, I'd want to know more about his relationship with his brother. Sometimes this is another feature of families that's not related to birth order, but actually it is a little bit, that often oldists get a lot of attention from the parents because they're the first and the only one, And I'm the only one who had that experience with my family, right? I was the only of those 6 kids who had my parents for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother had miscarriages during that time. But so often that oldest child ends up, in fact, having more problems. And it's not uncommon for that oldest child to not really function as a healthy oldest. And then the second child comes along and the parents are still so fixed on, oh my God, this child's turning 3 and the baby will just feed the baby, right? But what's going on with the 3-year-old? That one gets left a little freer. The second one gets a little freer and can kind of live their own life and actually does better. And this is counterintuitive in our society. So often we talk about functional oldists. So you want to kind of look at the dynamic between the younger brother and the older brother.
Okay.
And look at the relationship, look at the parents.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah. So that youngest brother might have had a mother, who had older and younger brothers and was comfortable with both, or whatever, we'd have to talk a little bit more about it. When you find that guy, call me. Right?
Okay.
Anybody out there, call me, and I can go into all the variables and help you piece together how to make it work.
Okay.
This isn't a prescription. It was just based on a research study. And as even Toman says, hey, even when you don't have rank complementarity, older, younger, or a sex complementarity, and these things in terms of current gender, sex issues, that's something, of course, that he wasn't talking or thinking about back in the day. But these dynamics, I think are something that each person wants to look at in terms of their identity. And if they're not identifying, as male or female, then they just look at other features in the family, right? And rank can be important too. It can be the more important part.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow. Well, this was so cool to learn about. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. But so, Chase, tell us a little bit about, first of all, last time you were on the show, as Benny pointed out, you were about to go on a date. And
yeah, I was trying to remember what date that was. You reminded me it was October.
Early October.
So was I about to go on a date? I was about to leave the podcast and go on a date.
Yeah, you had to travel somewhere, was it a subway or a train or a bus or something? It was a third date maybe?
Oh.
Is that not it? You've had so many. It's hard to keep track.
I don't think I've ever taken a subway to a date.
Or you had to travel somewhere. You had to go to them.
Oh, I was going to a coffee date.
That's it.
That's what it was. It was in Burbank, and I'm in the West Side.
Oh, there it is.
No, it was terrible.
Oh,
but I did enjoy the fact that easy out. It was coffee was done. That was my first and only and probably last coffee date. But I did like that it was okay, well, bye.
Have a good day. Yeah, right.
I'm done with my coffee. So, but it really, because it was coffee and not a drink, it felt like an interview. I felt like I was being interviewed for a job. And he had seen me do stand-up. It's usually if I don't meet someone on an app, they might see my comedy and ask me out. And he was one of that on that, and so he was just asking me all these questions about my career. And I was confused, is this a date or are you just curious about my career as a stand-up? It felt like an interview. So that was a no. He also at one point said something about him being autistic, and then he just brushed past it. And then I felt like I couldn't really follow up about that. And I think maybe that's why the conversation felt very interviewee. Maybe there wasn't this connect going on.
Yeah, we're not on a first encounter.
Yeah. So that was that date. That was a no. And I've only been on no's since then. I was saying before we started recording with Mercy, I was I just haven't had a crush on someone in so long. And it's so fun to have a crush. And I've been trying, I've been going on lots of dates, but I'm just ugh. I'm at a point where I'd rather just be single than be with these guys I'm going out with. I don't want to date these guys. There's no Leonardo DiCaprio's 1996. Where are they?
So, yeah, I don't know how entertaining this will be for our audience because I think you and I are kind of in a similar place. I always called myself the queen of the one date, like 100
You told me.
birthdays.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but I did meet somebody this fall who broke through the veil of Match.com because he knew my college, which was a small college in the Midwest that I think is really cool, but most people have never heard of. But he knew it because he'd gone to a similar college. So I had to respond. And so we had, in fact, he's still counting the dates, but there were many wonderful things about him. And yet I knew, within a few dates that this wasn't a match for me. And I think I've been able to convince him to be my friend. And that was kind of a hard thing. He just it was like, next.
Yeah.
But he's come along, and so we're friends, and that's been kind of nice. But what's kind of fun at this point is because our conversations have been much more open and natural, right? And he even said to me, he said, well, you know me, I really want a relationship. And see, at my age, I think there are a lot of men out there who really want a relationship, but they don't necessarily want to have a live-in relationship, right? They want a girlfriend, or they don't want to get married again. Anyone my age is either, if they haven't been married, well, that's something, but then they're either widowed or divorced. So there's some kind of version of a heartbreak for all of us in there. So anyway, it gets a little mushy,
complicated.
Yeah. And so he says, okay, I want a relationship, but you don't. I said, of course I do. And he said, no, you're too picky.
Yeah. And that's, yes. Sorry. We talked a little before we started recording, and I also brought up the picky thing for me. I also am very picky, but I don't know why that's a problem. I don't want to date someone. I was saying, like, I can have a boyfriend. I'm very aware that I could be dating someone right now. It's that my standards are very high, and I think that's okay. I'd rather be single than just be with a guy just to be with a guy.
I think that's perfectly normal coming from my side, because I had the same way. My boy's mom and I, we dated for 3 years and then we broke up, but we still had our kids. And I just never wasn't really ready yet. And I had another 7 years go by and 8 years. And I'm like, and then finally it just kind of clicked. Maybe it's time for me. But I had all those years of being kind of picky and going out a couple of times and, dating itself. It's just, it never attracted me that way until I was just really ready. So
until you were ready.
Exactly. But I think being picky is really good though, too.
Because I'm on the apps and I'm trying and I'm going out, but I'm swiping and I'm going, what? I don't want to go meet this guy. I don't care to talk to him.
Yeah.
And I know I could if that was really my goal. If it was really to be in a relationship, I know I could be, but I've realized it's more that I want to be in a relationship with someone that I really like.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
One thing I found really useful about, these having several dates with somebody who was very interested in me is that it helped me get clear about what's really important to me. And,
which is?
What's really important is this is not very romantic.
I want to hear.
But I realized that at this point, it's really, first of all, I want to live with somebody. I prefer that type of a relationship. It's not a deal breaker, but I would really prefer that. And I want to be with somebody who's prepared to be a partner, a life partner with someone. At my age, you have children, maybe you don't get married, maybe you don't combine your finances, but you share, and your lives are easier and bigger because you're with each other, right?
I think that's romantic.
Yeah, and also with a sense of security too, right? That's a bonus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The practical things matter.
I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Job, no job, finances. At my age, a lot of guys are retired. Do they have it together? Does it, and it doesn't have to, does it balance? Do they know what they're doing?
Yeah.
Those things matter to me because I want my life to be more secure with somebody, not less secure with somebody. So that
I
was,
think that's beautiful.
well, yeah, it felt a little kind of, it, and even this friend of mine, he talks a lot about finding somebody who's a perfect match, except for that, and that being a disappointment to him, right?
Except
That,
for he wants to like live with the person. He doesn't want to
no,
live with
I
the
don't
person.
think he does particularly. Or maybe, I mean, I'm sure he would if he really found the right
Well,
person and they
this is
worked
your
it out. But he
this
doesn't want to take care of someone again, and that
oh,
has to do with, I think, what happened in his other marriage. So
got it.
yeah, so those things matter. And when I was a single mom for 10 years and had a hard time finding a partner, I didn't find a partner till I found somebody who, even though my son's father was in the picture, I didn't find a partner till I found somebody who thought carefully and was willing to take that on. I didn't realize in my 30s that what, um,
Yeah.
how that practical matter really made a difference for
Yeah.
what my romantic self,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you became friends with this guy. And one thing I'm realizing with dates is like when I go on the date and you're just like meeting them for the first time, I'm realizing what I do much better with is if I have a friendship with the guy and I can get to know the guy.
Yes.
There's no pressure and then I can decide. But that like pressure on the date actually works against me.
Exactly.
And I would love it if the dating apps were just friend apps and you got to just like become friends and then see if there's something there.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I like the whole becoming friends
Yeah.
first.
But hang on, let me jump in
So,
from
yeah.
what. But if have you already both decided on that, or is that just on your decision going into it?
Oh
Being
no,
friends?
no, God no. No one's it's just me.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, as I say, I had to.
Like let's just be
Yeah.
friends. I
Okay.
think it would take the pressure way, 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 way down.
Gotcha.
But that's just unheard of on these apps.
Well,
And if
that's what
someone's
happened
on
for
the
me.
apps for friends, it's weird.
Yeah. So that's what happened for me, is that it made it much easier to actually get to know him, and
Yeah.
So, but our time is just about up, and Chase, I want to talk about you a little bit more. I want to let people know that they can get in touch with me at leadershipwithmercy.com and or mercy at leadershipwithmercy.com. And I'd be welcome to for anybody to get in touch with me, ask me questions, have a consultation. I will be continuing with some type of podcast, and you can look for me there. So Chase, so tell us about you.
Well, if you have an Instagram, that's where I post most of my videos and content. It's at Chase_O'Donnell. And my special people pleaser is out on YouTube. You can just search people pleaser Chase O'Donnell. It'll pop right up. And I have a website, chaseodonnell.com. So that's where you can keep in touch with me, although I'm very bad at updating my website. It's really just Instagram.
So, but can they get on they can reach you though?
Yeah.
With your email.
Yeah, I have
They want to book a gig with you, have you come to a private party.
Oh
Or
yeah.
a bachelor party where you can talk about
Oh,
all those bad dates we don't have to think about anymore.
absolutely. On my Instagram, there's a little link tree thing where you can put in where you'd like me to perform and you become part of my mailing list.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah. So that's that. But I do
Yeah.
talk a lot about my dates and my bad dates and hopefully soon my good dates.
Your good dates. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be roasting your new guy.
Yeah.
So this is Mercy Russell with the Remarkable Relationship Show. I've celebrated my last episode today here with Chase O'Donnell. Thank you so much. And the title of this show will be Chasing Love with Chase O'Donnell. We decided. And I just want to thank Benny for everything you've done for me this year. And you've been just perfect, a great, add in whenever you chime in.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And back
and
at
he's
you.
put
Big
up,
heart. Big
yeah,
heart.
yeah. He's put up with quite a bit of challenge from me.
Not even.
And yeah, well, it's been great. So anyway, Mercy Russell, the Remarkable Relationship Show. You can find me on the internet.